So it's my great pleasure to let him tell his own story, though.
Sure.
And introduce Obi Kaufmann. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you. All right. Hey, thank you, friends. Thank you all for welcoming me. It's a very great pleasure of mine to be here at the Audubon Center. I am not a birder. I wish I was. I got a couple of dozen birds in my pocket, but I mean, as far as the names and identification goes, but when you're talking about the biodiversity that we have here in these adjacent hills, it's way out of my league. But what a great opportunity. I really thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So, the California Field Atlas is here. It's been here for a little bit. It's a field atlas, which is a genre that I just created. It's not a field guide. A field atlas. I needed something to more broadly describe the character of California that I was going for in detail. And that character is that piece of California, that heart that has always been, continues to be, and will always persist despite the urban veneer that we've so successfully imposed on the Golden State over the past 150 years or so. So I'm very pleased to report that with the success of the California Field Atlas, my first book, my first major publication, comes more books. I am working now on 3 more books, in fact, the California Lands Trilogy. So you can say I'm tripling down on this whole idea of mapping California. I joke non-humorously that I could paint 800 maps a day for the rest of my life of California and not tell all the stories that I wanted to tell. So, the California Lands Trilogy. The forests of California will be here in the fall of 2019. The coasts of California will be here in the spring of 2020, and the deserts of California will be here in the fall of 2020. And then I am going on a walking tour of the state. This is map 0101 from the book. It's the first map of the book. There are no roads. I think that's a key cornerstone of what a field atlas is to me, is that there are no roads in here. Roads are such a boring story to tell, right? A road is just the shortest distance between some human point A and some human point B. Trails have some narrative to them, whether they follow a ridge line or some water course or some contour. There is an ecological thing that we can follow, some sort of drama that happens there. So the big idea I have is in 2020, I'm going to spend the whole year and I'm going to backpack. I think we're going to start in San Diego, cross over Palomar, and then go up to PCT. Take the Bigfoot Trail down to the Monument Trails of Bay Area Rim Trail, and then back down the Condor Trail. So I hope to all see you here again in a couple of years. How about we do that? So when thinking of the character of California that I go to describe in the Field Atlas, I am thinking about not how, okay? I'm sorry, not what. Let me start there. Not what, like what is this butterfly or what is this stone? That's the job of a field guide, right? I'm not even thinking about I'm certainly not thinking about why either. Why is California shaped this way? I'm not interested in history that much. I'm not even considered, and this is kind of funny for something calling itself an atlas, I'm not even I'm not concerned with where. What I am concerned with is how. The first few chapters of this book, chapter 2 is called Earth, of Earth and Mountains, chapter 3 is called Water and Rivers, chapter 4 is called Fire and Forests, and chapter 5 is called Wind and Weather. And so this basic how, of how do these shaping and orienting forces of earth, air, fire, and water combine and work together to create this collective reality of ours, this land of natural superlatives, and how they continue to live and be. Travis, shall we continue on here. So just personally, then I go into me. Okay. Glad to help. I'm finding more and more thinking about what this book is about, and I think it's more about me than about anything. If you look at my Instagram, Coyote Thunder, which I hope you all do, I might front that I'm some sort of John Muir type, eating berries and living in trees all the time. I do that, not as much as you might think that I do. My father was the astrophysicist, Dr. Obi Kaufmann. He was the director of the Griffith Observatory in the early 70s for a bit. My mom was a clinical psychologist, and she likes to tell the story about how, standing over my, whatever, I don't know what they call it, baby thing. Right. What's this guy gonna be? My dad got his PhD in math when he was 23 or whatever. Oh, he's gonna go do that. And my mom was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be a Potter out of that speech. As if that's some kind of spectrum. I don't know. I think I'm probably right in the middle. Heyday is my publisher. They've been publishing books about, with the tagline "Into California" for over 40 years. We've got Gary Snyder, Laura Cunningham, John Muir, Laws, so many great artists, Tom Killian, good writers, Jared Farmer, excellent writers that I'm so proud to be part of. And I can't imagine the wringing of hands and the pulling of hair that happened. Like, wait, who's this guy? So yeah, what I actually do, right? I am a farmer and a father, but I have no land and I have no children. So this is 4,200 man hours of getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 10 in the evening with this fire, right? I mean, I am a painter. It is my core identity. It was my first identity. It will be my last. I've always wanted my book of paintings, and what this did for me was afford that to me, but I got to give it to the thing that I love most in the universe, which is the natural world of California. Geographic literacy is the aim of this book. As I said before at the beginning of this little talk here, this introduction, is that I posit this to be an inventory of conservation, what we have left to protect, what is still here. And in California, it's all still here, and all still ours to protect. I don't have any prophetic truths about this strange era of chaos that I know that I sense that we are entering into, climatically or otherwise. But I do have a heading, and that heading is, let us know this place. Let us sing the names of these spaces. Let us be counted among California's people. Let us finally be of California. It does not belong to us. We belong to it. A question that I often get is, how long have I been working on it? And I believe the short, boring answer to that question is my whole life. And the long, more interesting answer is the 1 year to get it done. What happens, what this book represents to me, or what happens as I've gone through it, is this whole democratizing of the natural world in California. And what I mean by that is that it's not just about the showstoppers like the sequoias or the redwoods or the Mojave Desert. It's about where to hike, where to enjoy the natural world, where nature is at in San Joaquin County or San Benito County, these hinterlands that are just as beautiful. And I think that is the whole point of how grand this place is and can be. The editing process of this book was at least as interesting as the drafting process. I didn't know how it was going to be set up until towards the very end of the whole thing. I didn't even realize this whole earth, air, fire, water dynamic until towards the end of the thing. when it just sort of made itself known and plain. And I think that is where the meat of the book is. The rest of the book, chapter 6 is of life and death in the deserts. Chapter 7 is wildlife and wild gardens. And that's a very interesting chapter in that is really where you find a lot of my personal maps. Maps like this one that I've identified as really endangered landscapes, really unique landscapes, or wildflower blooms. 70 of my favorite places to experience how wonderful and diverse the wildflower bloom can be in the spring. For those of you who know, as it starts towards the Anza Borrego Desert in the February, Marchish, and then it marches up the coastal ranges and the Sierra Nevada up to where it finally comes to a seasonal close in the Klamath Mountains in September. These are the kinds of things that I've learned from backpacking in California, and so chapter 7, being wildlife and wild gardens, is more of my personal maps. Chapter 8 would be parks and protection. I'm very much into land conservation, and they go into in depth about how we legislate land conservation on a regional, statewide, and federal level. Chapter 9, then, the largest chapter of the book, is about the counties, one each of all 58 counties in the state, and where nature is at in all of those counties. And so what my point for this little segue here is that the first few chapters, Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, those are all maps based on, good sources, good sound, peer-reviewed sources like, from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Department of Energy, and these kind of things. Where the rest of the book is almost kind of an appendix, really. Most of this book is an appendix. Okay, so what is a map? What an invitation to power it is. How do I get to direct all of your attention. With the right lexicon of graphic symbols presented in just the right way. There's an elegance, there's a simplicity about it that I hope in fact, I use the same icons run throughout the whole book. You learn about 50 icons. You can start to read or even just look at the maps. It begins to unfold before you, much like a painting would, as if you understand it before you even read it, which is a moment that I'm very interested in. But how far does my authority go as a historian, as a naturalist, as a cartographer? How far do I get to go before I put the brakes on myself? A scientist, as far as whatever authority I've got is. I use this moniker of artist as both a shield and a license. And time will tell. I've got no answer for that one. But I do know that, there was a moment when these philosophical problems were taking me down. And I was hiking with that bald-bearded guy from the previous slide, Malcolm Arlen, who wrote The Lonely Way. He's a great old-school writer. He's just got sort of a pure, foul mind all at the same time. And I was hiking in one of these beautiful, sumptuous, wildflower-filled days outside of, in San Mateo, somewhere in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and wildflowers everywhere. And I was just swooning in exhaustion, and it's a bit silly. I'm still in love with California right now because I was still figuring out how to put the book together. I wish California could be my lover. And it's a weird thing to say. I'm like, Malcolm, I don't think that's going to make it into the introduction. And he looked at me and he says, I wish it would. And so again, brilliant editor just giving me a little bit of a push and letting me own the power. So again, I became more free in that, and that was the origin of the first line of the book, that this is in fact a love story. He says, what a book is the stone for the soup around which people gather. Okay, I can't really think of any better concluding words for this yarn except to end on that. I know that this is good and that this will extend up from my mortal efforts into the future and you all being here tonight represent a new way of thinking, and that I hope this book begins to touch on, and that new way of thinking that all natural systems are living systems and deserve an emancipated rebirth from these cycles of endless extraction without compensation towards the natural world. I hope that this book ultimately represents part of the larger puzzle to where we are looking towards the future, not about our continued human residency here over the next 50 years, not over the next 100 years. We've been here for 10,000 years. Why can't we talk about the next 10,000 years? What if we trusted each other enough to begin that conversation? California abides and provides. Thank you guys very much. I hope to sign your book. Thank you guys. Thank you. Now, give me your questions. Anybody got any questions?
I'm around folks who express their passion. And what I want to feel from you is that as you went through the process of the editing, did you discover some things about California that surprised you at the end that you didn't see that discover?
Yeah, that's a great question. Surprised me. Well, I did. I'm gonna quote Taylor Swift. She's like any great love, it drives you crazy. Yeah, you know, California has always done that for me. I'm surprised constantly. Not only by, of course, the amount of superlatives that this place, this California floristic province, shows me and us again and again. The tallest, the whitest, the oldest, the longest lived, the most, the lowest, the highest. Like, we've got it all here. California. Edward Abbey said it very well. Now I'm just quoting people. Edward Abbey said it very well when he says, you know, there's reality, and then there's California. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I'm interested because your art is so fluid and graphic, and it looks like it took you
Thank you.
5 seconds. Do you sketch it first? Do you photograph? Is it like?
Thank you. Yeah. In this presentation tonight, I've spent exactly 0 minutes talking about my actual creative process, which is I find that you know, calligraphy and wildlife rendering, it's all pretty equivocal to me. It's always just been pushing fluid around on paper. To speak most obliquely, I find that in the book, most objects or most things that I illustrate, from the small, if they're small or if they're still, like a mountain, I can paint them. Condors make terrible models, as do like mountain lions and stuff. Just don't seem to sit still. So I will work from photographs. I have no problem doing that, you know. But yeah, I find that the longer a painting takes me, the worse it is. I get in the way of it, you know. Especially bird paintings. There's a lot of bird paintings. And if a little bird painting takes me more than 2 or 3 minutes, then I got it all. You know, and then like the identifying qualities of that bird go away. You know, like condors. How many of you guys have actually seen a California condor? Yes. I'm at the Audubon Center. All right. In the wild, I mean. All right. Excellent. Good. Yeah. Well, you know, we got over 400. I've been backpacking in California my whole life, and I saw my first condor in the wild about 6 years ago, and it was one of those beautiful moments in my life. In the morning, I just flew in a tree next to me and airing out his big wings there, and it's like, wow, that is not a vulture. They fly completely differently. They're marked completely differently, and they're big. And they're very big. All right. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe with all your support. Yes.
What was your favorite animal on your bench?
Oh, that's such a good question. You just drew a hummingbird up there, right? Did you erase it? I really liked it. Yeah. Try it again, won't you? I love that. My favorite animal? Oh, geez. Well, I might stick with this one. I've seen a few mountain lions recently, and those are really beautiful. You know, mountain lions are fantastic. And the thing about a mountain lion is like, you could be really close to one and not know it. Like, however it works out with the mountain lion, it's totally on its own terms. Like it's in control of the situation, and that is fine. And just like when you see a condor or something, seeing a vulture, it's like, wow, that's not a bobcat. You know, that big shovel face and that big heavy swinging tail. But yeah, give me the big animals. I like the big animals. Although the small animals are really beautiful here too. Gosh, you guys are giving me hard questions tonight. Yes.
The grizzly bears got extinct in LA in like the late 19th century, but
No, it was early 20th century. It's been less than 100 years.
yeah, because they used to eat out of the LA River. They used to eat the steelhead fish out of the LA River. But so it was like 19 teens. It was one of the big
20s. 20, the last one was shot. Yeah.
People never believed in
I think it's 20, like 21, 22,
Yeah.
something like that.
How about Northern California? Same thing.
Yeah, the last California grizzly was shot. Yeah, the rewilding of California. Should we invite? We're gonna have to do some infrastructure with our water. But you know, we are celebrating the first spawning of the spring run Chinook in the San Joaquin Valley in over 60 years. This year, given all the rains that we had last year, it made the San Joaquin River restoration project that much more available to us. We're spending billions of dollars to make this happen. But I think that's a testament to how important it is for us. It's not our right to take the salmon away. And we have the ability to do it. And it's actually like trucking eggs and stuff, but we're doing it, you know, yeah, I'm so proud of our state for doing that. So we'll see if it's all a gamble, but there are spring run Chinook for the first time in 60 years in the San Joaquin River right now south of Freedom. That's a very good success story. All right, yes?
Based on that question, throughout your travels, what do you see as opportunities for conservation or preservation throughout California?
Sure. Well, the last chapter in my book, which I hadn't talked about yet, which is chapter 10, The Rewilded Future. I, again, without any prophetic truth, lay out the most simple plan of what I call, and what is being called, I don't call it, but what is being called rewilding bridges. What we're finding here is that the old 20th century paradigms of land restoration, like national parks, for example, are really amounting to these islands of extinction that are slowly atrophying inside because the forces of life, the flora and the fauna that live there, the flora and fauna live there need space to go back and forth. And so what is happening, I'm going to explore this more on a philosophical level, I think in my next book, is this whole word nature. How it's something different. Like if it's made by this, it's not nature. You know, which I think is old, perhaps even lazy thinking. How do we let nature in more to our urban spaces, to be part of this larger rewilding movement where we make connectivity between natural blocks of landscape possible and necessary. And I think, again, as you consider more this geographic literacy that I've got here, it's the only thing I've got. Geographic literacy. You open up to this greater liberation. And it's a thinking that I know our grandchildren's grandchildren will thank us for doing so. all still here for us to protect. It's all still here. Alrighty, guys.